Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning. Welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, summer is rolling through here so quickly through Moore County.
It is speeding on by, isn't it?
I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm old, but how people say the older you get, the faster time goes?
Yes.
Okay, so I must be old because this summer is gone like a blip.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. When you have kids, too, it accelerates the pace, doesn't it?
Very much so.
Yeah. And you mentioned last week on the show that you have your youngest is going to be starting kindergarten.
Yes, he is.
Are you stressing about that?
Not so much as Daddy is stressing about it.
Is that
This is
right?
number 5 for me, so it's like old hat, but it's new for him. So
This is your last one, though.
this is my last one.
I mean, I hope it's your last one.
It's my last one.
Do you know how expensive? Oh, my gosh. The amount of money you spend on kids, right?
You maybe. I've seen what you've done for kids in your office.
Well,
they're spoiled rotten in your office.
Yeah, and they all have bad teeth.
Yeah, well, you're keeping the dentists around here in business. That's what it is.
That's right.
You're in cahoots with the dentists.
So, in Moore County, okay, so it's summertime.
Yep.
So what happens sometimes, kids, they come home from spring break for the summer.
Yeah.
And they're all excited. And then, they go through the doldrums. They get bored.
They get bored quick.
And moms get impatient.
Yes.
And yet sometimes some families, moms have to hold down 2 jobs during the day. And the kids are left unattended. And sometimes kids can get in trouble.
Sometimes.
Hanging out, not having a whole lot to do. And a lot of it has to do with each family's economic standing, where they are. Mm-hmm. So we always seem to get back to talking about mentoring and coaching and providing nets and
guiding these kids.
Yeah, and because you want kids to make good decisions at a young age, so that by the time they get to be a little bit older, they're a little disciplined and they can start to make choices for themselves and make good choices.
Right.
And I've seen both, and I've seen what happens with good choices, and I've seen what's happened to kids who don't make good choices. A few weeks ago, Anthony McCauley was on, and if you remember, very charismatic guy.
Very.
Males of Distinction
right.
is his organization, and he's trying to help kids, I guess, between the ages of 8 and 18.
Yeah, I think that's what his demographic was, yes.
And prior to that, he was with More Buddies, which is a very well-known and important agency here, providing mentoring for kids of all ages. So in our conversation with Anthony, he's not shy.
No, not by a long shot.
During the show, he had mentioned Rita Ladner to me, who is a recruiter with an organization called Tarheel Challenge. And we have her here today, and she's going to be speaking about the mentoring, the Tarheel Challenge Academy, what it is, and what application it might have to some Moore County families. And we also have with us today a guest who, every time summer rolls around and the month of July hits, I start thinking about Christmas. And the reason I do that, that expression, what is it, Christmas in July?
Christmas in July.
I saw something this morning on social media, Christmas in July, and I said, oh, they're selling something. There's got to be something planned around that cute phrase.
Of course.
But Myron Dice has been the organizer of what used to be known as the Empty Stocking Fund, called Christmas for More. And in a kind of an indirect way, these two topics are related. And as we have a conversation today, I think you'll see why.
Okay.
So we're glad that Myron is with us as well. But first up is Rita Ladner. You're originally from Baltimore.
Yes, sir, I am.
And you tell us a little bit about Tarheel Challenge, the Academy. What is it?
Tarheel Challenge Academy is an at-risk youth school a military quasi type school for kids 16 to 18.
16 to 18.
16 to 18. They can turn 19 in the program,
Okay.
but day one they have to be at least 18, no older than 18.
And it is for, you refer to it as sort of like boot camp?
No, it's not a boot camp. It's just military quasi. They do wear a uniform that we provide. Everything that we do is in a military manner because we find strict discipline really turns these young people around.
And probably because they might not have had a lot of it prior to coming in.
Exactly.
So, are you affiliated with Anthony? Do you guys work together? How do you know each other?
I met Anthony last school year. I was at a middle school talking with a guidance counselor, and I was leaving. He came up behind me, and he's like, I didn't mean to eavesdrop your conversation.
He's so shy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's very shy.
I mean,
yes.
We really have to get him out of his shell.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
But he was just like, I really want to know about your program. So we stood out in the parking lot for about 30 minutes, and I explained the program to him.
Yeah.
And then he told me about what he was doing.
Right.
So then I said, well, I had another event I had to go to. I said, but, email me. We'll set up something where I can actually sit down and really go over it with him. And I did. And then he came to the schoolhouse and had a tour. And he's on board.
Where's the schoolhouse?
We have 2 locations. There's one in Salemburg, North Carolina. And then the other one is in New London, North Carolina.
Okay. Now, I'm not familiar with those locations.
Okay,
but
Salemburg's outside of Clinton, about 30 minutes, southeast of Fayetteville.
Okay.
And then New London is near Albemarle, Charlotte area.
Okay. And you draw from those areas, or you try to get around the state and talk it up?
We have 4 recruiters through the whole state, and the counties are broken down.
So in Moore County, the Tarheel Challenge Academy would apply to who? Who would you be trying to reach?
Any child between the ages of 16 to 18 that might have lost their way. Maybe they're struggling in school. Maybe they're struggling at home. Maybe they're not getting along with their parents. Maybe some kids that have gotten in trouble with the law.
Yeah.
Anyone that is at risk, which at risk,
Right.
it's an array of things. Some of these kids might have just broken up with a boyfriend or girlfriend, and they don't know how to handle it.
Right.
Maybe they had a falling out with their mom. Maybe mom's a single parent or dad's a single parent. There's different reasons why these kids come to us. Some of these kids are very academically gifted. They just need to get out of their area. Maybe it's peer pressure. Maybe they need to get out of their community and be put somewhere totally different, and away from all these distractions and what have you.
I always admire, and I'm always amazed by the number of people who come on the show who, in my mind, based on what they do, they're sort of paying it forward and trying to give back. And mentoring seems to fall into that category. How did you get involved with the Tarheel Academy? Tell me a little bit about your background.
Okay. I grew up in Baltimore.
Okay.
And it was a very strict Catholic family, and I knew there was more to the world than Ocean City, Maryland. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I got tired of seeing people in bikinis. So my uncle was in the Army, and he started sending me stuff for where he was stationed at, and it just intrigued me. And I'm like, I know there's a big world out there. So I joined the military beginning of my 12th grade year. I did almost 21 years. But when I retired, they started a civilian recruiting company up. And so I jumped on that bandwagon, and Tarheel Challenge happened to be one of my schools. So I was the Army recruiter for that school. And over time, I got to really meet the commandant and other employees out there. And I just grew fond of the school and said that, you know what? Because I didn't know that they had these schools elsewhere. But anyway, so I was the Army recruiter there, putting those kids in the Army. And then we had lost our contract, and I had asked the commandant, do you have an opening for a cadre? And he's like, yes, we need female cadre. So I filled out the application. A month later, I was working. So I actually was a cadre or a drill sergeant for the academy for 3 years. So I know it inside out. It does work. That first 6 weeks, it's something. Because these kids are being taken out of their homes and, put in there with us because they stay with us for 5.5 months. And, we're strange to them and so forth. So it takes a little bit, but, the nurturing, the mentoring, the father figures that are there, the mother figures, it all comes together.
What about the cost?
It's absolutely free. It's ran by the state, funded through the state, the federal government, and the National Guard.
So, on a 10-point scale, how much awareness do you think the school systems throughout the state of North Carolina have of this program?
I'll say maybe 75%.
No, that's much
Maybe.
higher than
Maybe.
I thought.
Maybe. One of the problems that I've noticed this past school year is that there's a lot of changeover in schools. So if a SRO leaves, if a guidance counselor leaves, a vice principal, whatever, you have spoken to that person that year before about it, what happens to the materials that you left? Sometimes it's file 13, which, but what needs to happen is they need to forward it on to the next person that comes in, but that doesn't always happen. That's why every year throughout the school year, we're in all the high schools and the middle schools, all the alternative schools.
Have you had a presence in more county schools?
I just started this county at
Okay.
the end of last school year, so it's coming.
Okay.
It's coming.
And Anthony, my guess is he can help as a conduit for
Yes.
you with his
Yes.
connections?
Yes.
Okay. So there's, do you have siblings? Do you come from a big family?
Two sisters, one older, one younger.
Really?
I'm the middle.
Okay. So this sort of evolved. You just sort of woke up one day after your military experience and said, you know what, this just feels right to me.
Well, you talking about the job-wise?
Yes.
I guess it goes back further than that because when I was in high school, I used to volunteer at a center for special needs.
Oh.
Matter of fact, I have custody of, I call her my sister, but she was a childhood friend, and she's special needs.
Oh.
So it's something I get from my grandmother. I have a big heart. If I only have one shirt and you need it because you're cold or what, I'd give it to you. That's just who I am. But I watch the news.
I'm sorry that you watch the news, but go ahead.
No, but the sense, the crimes that these teenagers and even younger
yeah.
are committing, it's just like your whole life is gone.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I can make a difference in one young person's life, just like when I was an Army recruiter, I still stay in contact with some of these, well, they're men and women now, but they were just kids,
What are some of, in your view, what are some of the common denominators that the students who come to the academy share, issues, problems?
Let's see. Peer pressure is a big one. Bullying is another one.
Uh-huh.
Let's see. They're not grasping. They're not really learning. It's like they're put in possibly certain classes to where it's above them in a sense, if that makes.
Okay, so I had it wrong. I asked the question thinking you were going to answer it a different way.
Oh.
I thought that's okay. I thought you were going to say the number one common denominator might have been the economic condition.
I got you. Okay.
Of the families.
That has a lot to do with it. It does. Like I said, these kids come to us from so many different backgrounds. It's
right.
There's some of these kids come to us because they don't have a place to live. You know what I mean? Their parents got evicted or whatever, but they still want their education, and they're hungry and so forth. And we're not discriminative whatsoever. We help any child that we can help. Any child that wants to be helped. I'll put it like that because it is a volunteer school.
Yeah. Tell me about a memorable success story that you've had.
I have many.
I bet you do.
I do. I have many.
What does a success look like?
Let's see. Like at the beginning, it's called acclimation phase.
Yeah.
And they'll go to like Camp Butner, and they'll do things. These kids will do things that they've never done before, like rappel, read a map, figure out how to use a compass, stuff like that. And the kids will always say, well, I'll never be able to do that. That's a couple of the words that we always tell the kids. We're not using those here. It is, I will try. I will give it a best shot. Not that I can't. Because you put negativity like that in your brain, then you can't. But this one young man, he struggled. He struggled at the beginning, homesickness and stuff like that. But, everybody, took him under his wing just like anybody else. And walking across that stage, him graduating, he earned his GED. He was just the look. No acne anymore. He was so full of self-esteem and just motivation. And he was planning on joining the Marine Corps, I believe it was. And just to see him, just that life, that 16-year-old, when he came there, because we take pictures of them when they start and, of course, at graduation, and the transformation is just unreal. Always he'll look at people now and talk, before he would have his head down. And
eye contact.
Yes, exactly. So now he has all this,
self-esteem.
this self-esteem is just it's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
So there's a maternal streak in you, too.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I can see that. I can see that as you're
Oh, yeah.
speaking.
They're all my kids. That's the way I see it.
And unfortunately, the kids that maybe don't get into the program or don't get into a program that kind of helps them reboot a little bit, what can happen to them?
A number of things could happen to them. The ones that don't get into our program, or for one reason or another, they could go to jail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They could get pregnant.
Never be on the tax rolls.
Exactly. Get into drugs, of course, get into an array of crime. But, these kids this day and age, they have so much out there, so many distractions. And that's why it's Tarheel Challenge. That's why it's military quasi, because there's no civilian clothes for these kids whatsoever.
As we're going to close the first set, I have one really important question to ask. Do you allow, when the kids come in, do you allow cell phones?
No.
Okay. And I like what you're saying. And do you allow computers?
No.
Okay. So you cut them off from social media. You cut them off from that electronic world that didn't exist when we were kids. Okay.
Exactly.
I like that. We're going to come back in the second set. We're speaking with Rita Ladner. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
And that's from the Tarheel Challenge Academy. And we're going to also be speaking in the next set with Myron Dice from Christmas for More. And this is All Things More County. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our second set of All Things More County. Our conversation, the first half of the show, is all about the Tarheel Challenge Academy, and our guest is recruiter Rita Ladner. So, can you make up in 5.5 months That's how long the term is. A lifetime of habits. Can you completely reset the bone so that it heals properly?
Believe it or not, yes, we can.
That's crazy.
Yes, I know it is.
That's crazy.
But it's repetitious. It's over and over and over.
So if I'm a single parent and I have a child that is undisciplined or wayward, and I'm doing the best I can, and yet I'm falling short, or maybe I have more than just one child, this sounds like a godsend.
It is. It is. And, like I said, we've been in business almost 25 years. Okay. And there's still people that have not ever heard of Tarheel Challenge.
Right.
So, we're trying to get the word out there as much as we can. But, yeah, a parent can pick up the phone.
But I'm going to play devil's advocate again. Okay. Getting these kids, are these mostly boys?
No, they're boys and girls.
Okay. But so you take a boy or a girl, 16 or 17. They're at that stage in their lives. They know it all.
Of course.
They can tell you what you need to know.
Exactly.
And you're going to break that racehorse down and reset it?
Yep.
It's the most difficult time.
It is.
Okay.
It is, because old habits are hard to break. But the thing is...
Young habits are hard to break.
Right.
But that's all they knew.
But what we try to do, especially me as a recruiter, I try to find out what their dreams and hopes are. Because every kid has a dream.
Right.
And, once they say, I want to be an NFL quarterback or whatever, I'm like, okay, so what have you done up until this point?
To do that.
To start doing that. And they kind of look at you. And you're like, oh, okay, so you haven't done anything. No, ma'am, but that's what I want to be. I'm like, okay, great. Well, guess what? I've got a program that will get you back on track and possibly earn your GED or your high school diploma so you can go on to college for something bigger and better and play football. I said, so that's my recruiting tactics come in. I'm like, so wouldn't you say it's, well worth to take a look into this? Yes, ma'am. Okay. And then I'll tell them. And then when I tell them they got to cut their hair, their eyes get wider. And then when you tell them they can't have a cell phone, their eyes get a little bit wider.
That's got to make them crazy.
It does. But I always go back to what we talked about because I'll take little notes. I'm like, well, you did tell me this was important and this was important.
Yeah.
But you're telling me now that your hair and your cell phone is more important?
Yeah. So most of these kids aren't used to being held accountable.
Correct. But they are there. They are. I mean, we teach them followership, leadership. There's an array of things that we teach them. And, also we teach them how to give back. Pay it forward.
Cool.
Because here we are. They're given a second chance, at life, in a nutshell. And, we always tell them, when you go home after graduating here, find that friend that's still sitting on the street corner doing nothing.
Right.
Whoever. Anybody that that is struggling, this is a way to turn that little light on in their head and make them productive young citizens.
Mm-hmm. I'm just looking at your brochure, and people can go online.
Yes.
and pull this out. What is your website?
We have the HTTPS NCTCA.NEWLONDON.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll put this on the the podcast. The parents or the parent, I should say,
or guardians,
or the guardians, right? They're the ones that push the kids to this.
It's not so much that they push them. Usually, what happens is a parent or a guardian, usually a grandparent, will call me and tell me about their child, and then I'll usually send them out an application if they don't have access to the internet or don't feel comfortable in the internet, and then we just tell them to try to get their child to the orientation. There is a mandatory orientation, and sometimes they'll get there, sometimes they won't.
Yeah.
But we can't make them go.
Yeah.
They could be voluntold, but they can't be made to go. They got to want to do this because then they're more apt to learn.
You, some of the qualifications. You got to be 16 to 18 years old.
Correct.
You got to volunteer to do it.
Correct.
Legal resident or U.S. citizen.
Correct.
You've got to be drug-free.
Mm-hmm.
No felony convictions or sentences in the criminal justice system. Physically and mentally capable. And an interview is required. So you do vet the people that come in.
Right. The interview's done on orientation. Yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit about the interview.
The interview is one-on-one with the child.
Yeah.
And it's like 21 questions. The first question is anyone forcing you to be here? You know, the next question is, do you want to be here? And then why do you want to be here? You know, and we ask them too, what are their goals? What are their dreams? We ask them questions like, have you been in a gang? Have you been in trouble with the law? Have you done, drugs or alcohol? It's just basic questions. And then we ask the kids too, is there anything that you want to ask of us? You know, a lot of the times they talk about their cell phone. You know, it's like part of it's like an eyeball.
Yeah.
You know, it's right there.
Like their third lung.
Right. But like I said, all I can do is reiterate and just say, hey, you said you want to be this. You know, you're going to have to make compromises, sacrifices in order to get what you want in life.
Do you have some of the past graduates of the Academy come to speak to the present members?
They do come from time to time. Of course, that's coordinated through the Academy. But a lot of the kids, when it comes time for graduation, they don't want to leave.
They found a home.
They found a home. They found that structure, you know, that real love,
Right.
you know, that connection that they needed because, all the male cadre are like father figures or older brother figures,
Yeah.
you know, and the same with the females.
Yeah.
You know, we're like that mother figure or that sister figure, you know, something that's missing in their life. You know, we're not going to give in to them like at home, you know. A parent or guardian might give in real easily. We don't do that. No.
These are the kids that were not born on third base.
Yeah.
These are the kids that are just looking for a chance.
Yep.
And to try to get back to out some sort of a level playing field so they can be competitive in life.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So your enthusiasm comes shining through. The more you speak, the more enthusiastic you get, and it shows.
Thank you.
And as we're listening and as we're talking, I think to Myron, who's listening to you as well, every year we go out and we adopt different families in Moore County to provide Christmas gifts or food cards or something to make the holiday season better for them. And then I have images of some of the kids in some of these families who I think were not born on third base, who do not have a level playing field, or the potential to not have a level playing field is great. And you're starting, Myron, do you agree with that assessment?
Oh, very definitely.
Right?
We of course start with the families that have needs, and they must come to a registration site, and those are coming up September 10 through 17, 4 different sites in Moore County, and they come and sign up for the family, and then from that commitment, we find sponsors to be good neighbors to them.
Yeah. In getting the logistics set up, and we're going to talk about that, isn't it nice to know that there's an organization like Tarheel Academy as a net to catch those kids that maybe never did get that bounce?
Certainly.
Right.
I work with Tamber Chamberlain at Pinecrest High School, and
right.
Very much aware of kids that are out on the street. They're basically couch surfing because they want to finish school.
Breaks your heart to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Couch surfing.
But it happens.
So the kids are there, and in Moore County alone, I'm aware that there are between the 3 high schools, there are at least 50 kids that fit into that category. Mm. And the social workers are doing the best they can to get those kids the support they need to keep them going. But a program like the Academy gives an option.
Yeah. We live in a county, North and South Moore County, and it's a tale of 2 different counties, as you are probably well aware, and Anthony's probably told you. And it's heartbreaking to think that happens here. But that term, did you say it or did you say it, couch surfing?
Couch surfing.
That means the kids are looking for a place to sleep.
Yeah, they may be with a good friend for a while, and they wear that out and go somewhere else. Maybe they're with a grandmother for a while, but the grandmother can't keep them.
When I asked Rita the question about the common denominators, and I was looking for an answer, and she finally nodded in agreement. The economic piece of it is so important, isn't it?
It is, and of course for Moore County, much of it's rural Moore County, where it's hidden.
Yeah.
Most people aren't aware there's this kind of need in this county, but it's there.
The more I learn, the more I worry. The more I worry. I mean, it's like it diminishes everything we have, because you start to become more aware, and it's easy to hide out. And that's the thing. It's easy to get lost in your own little world and it's not in your face all the time. But this kind of a conversation sort of puts it out there right in front of you. How many years have you been doing Christmas for More?
Well, I think 4 years now. We picked it up after Empty Stocking ceased to exist.
Right.
Went 1 year, I think, and saw, hey, there's a big need out there. We need to see that this keeps going.
In the 4 years, how many families would you say you've touched?
Well, we're serving each year. I would say probably about 300 families.
Mm-hmm. That's 1,200 families that would not have had a Christmas, perhaps, or not have what you've been able to help provide with participation in the community.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Let's come back in the third set. We're going to talk a little bit more about Christmas for More. We're going to come back, Rita, and talk a little bit about Tarheel Challenge. Kudos to you. It was a great expose about what Tarheel Challenge is, and we'll make sure we post all the contact information on our podcast synopsis. This is All Things Moore County. Welcome back to our third set. We've kind of segued from the Tarheel Challenge a little bit, the Tarheel Challenge Academy, to the organization known as Christmas for More, who's been providing Christmas for over 1,200 families in the last 4 years. And the reason we do it in July, and we talk about it in July, is because this is not something that just happens after Thanksgiving when all of a sudden the organization is put together. This September, right after school opens, there are going to be registrations for families Tuesday, September the 10th at Our Savior Lutheran Church in Southern Pines, Thursday the 12th of September at the Crawford Center at West End Presbyterian in West End, Saturday the 14th of September at the Moore County Agricultural Building, and Tuesday the 17th of September at the Boys and Girls Club. So you have 4 opportunities for families to sign up. So you are, right now, you're getting everything set, because that's really your Christmas, getting it set up.
That's right. We get the word out in a lot of different ways to the families, but it's their responsibility to sign up. And once that is in place, then we're working with the sponsors, and churches, businesses, individuals can make the commitment to be a sponsor. And part of our objective is to have an interaction. The family neighbor that has a need and a neighbor that has the resource, to get them together and make that connection. You've participated in that, Bill, and you know how that works.
It makes it much more real when there's an eyeball-to-eyeball connection.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we need that much more in our community. And, of course, it's important for sponsors to be making their commitments so that we can get them matched up. And by mid-November, then the sponsor makes contact with the neighbor who has the need.
Right.
And makes arrangements so that they can either come to their home, or if the person in need prefers to go some other place in order to receive the gifts. Families with children, we'd much prefer that the parent had the opportunity to be the hero in their own household.
That's right.
They just don't have the resources.
That's right.
And if we can arrange that to happen, that's great.
Yeah. We had one of the years we had a family, and we actually met with the mother, gave her the gifts, and then she took them home to be the hero, like you said. One year we had a situation where we had to go to the house where the mom was living with her mother and the 2 babies, and that was okay too. And once it was at a place of employment for the mother, because she was trying to handle a couple of different jobs, couldn't coordinate it the way they wanted to. But you make connections that way, and it does become real. You just sent out in July, I guess, your newsletter and your application to past participants.
That's correct.
I got one, and it's very easy to fill out. I haven't done it yet, but I will.
That's right. We mail that to all past participants so that encouraging them to continue.
That's right. This takes a lot of planning. This is not just something that, you just get a donation like the United Way.
That's right.
This is a much more organic.
But it's all volunteers.
Yeah.
Christmas for More now is a 501c3.
Yep.
But it's run completely by volunteers. No administrative costs.
How's that volunteer portion of it working out? Plenty of volunteers?
Yes. We can always have volunteers to work in the registration sites, too. We have those returning each year, but if that's a special interest, that's an option.
So you can get somebody to sign up to adopt a family, as you say, and to go out. And if they don't want to go shopping, or if they, for whatever reason, they can't go shopping, they have other options, don't they?
That's right. They can give money that is tax deductible, and we arrange for other volunteers to go and do the shopping.
Or gift cards?
Or the gift cards. We encourage gift cards for groceries.
Mm-hmm.
But as you know, you found it work well to have the gift card for the mother to go and make the clothing purchases.
Yeah, I'm not so sharp on 6-year-olds. When they ask for a certain size, I'm lost. So I thought if we could pick the store and do it, it would be fine. And it's a win-win. But if people don't want to adopt a family, but they like the idea, they could still just make a charitable contribution to Christmas
Certainly.
for More.
Christmasformore.org. The 4 is a number 4.
Right.
Christmasformore.org.
Right. It's an intuitive website. We'll post that on the podcast as well. And in a way, it's not. It's kind of not crazy that the two of you are sitting here together. You're coming at things from a different angle, but you're both trying to provide nets. It's the best way I can say it.
Need safety nets.
Huh?
Need safety nets.
Yeah, you need safety nets. And there needs to be more of it. But you were talking in the break about Tambra Chamberlain.
Tambra Chamberlain. I'm going to have you have Tambra come and talk with you. But
yes.
the 3 high schools have a full-time social worker, and each of them are working with kids that are homeless or at risk, providing all the support they can. They have a tremendous track record because these kids are going on to college. Mm-hmm. They're finishing high school. They're going on to college.
Mm-hmm.
And what more could we expect? But there aren't individual social workers for each elementary school. And for many of these kids, the safety net's needed early.
Right.
Elementary, middle school, to make sure there's that support that's keeping them going in school. If they need the option of the Challenge Academy, then the social worker can help implement that.
Tambra should get to know Rita.
Oh, well,
Yes.
I already told her.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is that what you guys were
Yes.
talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You know, Rita, one of the things you'll find about Moore County, and you probably travel a lot in the state, it's a very giving community. It's very personal here. People get to know each other. This is not a expansive urbane county where there's a lot of anonymity. All the players and all the people sort of kind of know each other or know of each other. It's easy to start the round of connections here, I think.
Yes.
If we were an electrical grid, Moore County would be very well wired. Maybe some other counties would be all over the place, and you'd have a hard time getting a handle on it.
Right.
But here I think you'll find, and Anthony will tell you, you'll get a handle on Moore County fairly quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I've met several people myself that I've turned on to Anthony also.
Yeah.
That are trying to do things
Yeah.
for kids.
Right.
So now they have a bond, a bond.
Yeah.
So
There's good leadership in this county.
Yes,
It's
there is.
committed.
Yeah. And you shouldn't get a load of Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is, he's a mentor on steroids.
yeah,
I mean, he
he's
is
powerful.
very powerful, and he's very animated, and his conviction comes through with each breath. And I would think, if I'm a kid, if I'm 13 years old, and I'm listening to him, I'm listening to a rock star, but he's just not playing music.
Right.
I mean, he's very compelling, and you need more people like that. But your commitment comes through too. Different style, but it still comes through. And Myron, your career and your history is you're in a pay it forward mode, but you've had a lot of experience with poverty in different communities.
Spent 19 years in the inner city of Kansas City, Kansas.
That's right. And if you had to sum it up as a Cliff Notes version of what you took from that and what you try to apply today. How would you say it?
Well, what I found is that poor people have the ability to help themselves if they are given the boots to do it.
Okay.
You can't pull yourself up by the bootstraps unless you have the boots.
Right.
That's true.
And what I learned from that is there are a lot of committed people out there without resources. They just need the resources that can give them the start.
The more I listen to different groups, mentoring groups, volunteer groups, nonprofit groups, and the more I turn the TV on every night, I realize there's a huge gap. And the gap is that all the stuff that we have to do on our own. We have to do on the ground, and it has to be done grassroots. You can't sit back and wait for the government to do anything. It's all local, and it grows better that way. It's more organic. There's so many different points of view about the world, our world, America today. But just what we do here, I think, is just the way to do it. People helping each other out. And they should just turn off CNN and Fox and not pay attention.
Right.
That's right.
What do you think?
Have neighbor to neighbor.
Neighbor to
That's
neighbor.
right. There you go.
Yeah, because the days that you don't watch TV or you're kind of tuned out from social media, and it's quiet. It's you can absorb things, peaceful. Mm-hmm. But you start turning it all on, and you start getting a headache that will not go away. And it's not healthy anymore to watch TV and listen to all the warring factions and everything. I don't know. Okay, Christmas for More has 4 registration dates coming up. Tuesday the 10th of September, Thursday the 12th of September, Saturday the 14th, and Tuesday the 17th. So for that week, from the 10th to the 17th, would be the time the families need to reach out, and they can go online. They can get all the information that they need at christmasformore.org, and that's Christmas, the number 4, more.org. And that is your recruiting season.
That's right.
You have and then you just start distributing, and you match up the applicants with the people who have volunteered to adopt a family.
That's right.
You do great work, and I'm glad that you could come in on such short notice and talk with us. If people have any questions besides the website, where should they reach out to?
Well, they'll get options from the website.
So go to the website.
Yeah.
What if they don't have a computer?
Pardon?
What if they don't have a computer? Put you on the spot. No, I won't do that. They can go to the podcast and see all the contact information there. Okay. And Rita, if people want to reach out to you, they can go to your website.
Correct.
And that's nc-tcachallenge.org. Not as intuitive. Should work on that, but that's okay. The Tarheel Challenge Academy. And you have... You're located in Salemburg and New London, North Carolina.
Correct.
You have a 5.5-month program. Is it 1 a year or 2 a year?
No, we actually have 4 classes a year now with 2 academies.
Okay.
So Salemburg classes start in July and January.
Okay.
And New London classes start in October and April. Okay. So they overlap each other.
I'm glad you could come in. It's great. I mean, to know that this exists for someone, for some kids that need to be reset, it's a great opportunity, and you speak very compellingly about it.
Thank you.
Thank you guys both for coming in. This is All Things More County. Have a great week. We'll talk with you next weekend.